Hello. Happy brunch, everyone. Hi, everybody. Happy brunch. Happy brunch. Welcome. Welcome to the brunch. Good to see you all. Cheers. Well, it is a blessed Sunday. I hope everyone is having the best time of your life. This is the best Sunday ever. We've got a lot to talk about. People are a little bit confused about everything that is going on. And Joel, I did not see your comment requesting a reading. I had a lot going on yesterday. So I'd love to give you a reading, Joel. I'm sorry. I got wrapped up in my own BS and did not give you the reading that you wanted. So I'll try and get to that. Maybe we'll do that today if you'd like, if you're okay with me giving a public reading. Joel is our floor director, and he does a lot of really great stuff for us. But unfortunately, yesterday, I somehow skipped his question, and I was just wrapped up in my own whatever. I apologize. Well, welcome everybody, and thank you so much for being here. This is our Sunday brunch. We get together from the four corners of the earth, and that includes you. You're invited to join us as I extend my brunch table to yours. Let's see if we can't cross many time zones. Hopefully, we've crossed many time zones. Be sure and tell us all where you're coming from as we enjoy this brunch together. And what you're eating, what you're drinking. Are you optimistic about 2026? Tell us a little bit about yourself, and be sure to turn and say hello to everyone else at this virtual table. Some of you will join us in the taped reading. That's absolutely fine. Some of you will be able to come to us live, and I think that's awesome. But regardless of how you find this video or when you find this video, know that you're welcomed, and we're very grateful to have you here. As I mentioned before, our floor director is the amazing Joel Tilson. So if I have trouble seeing any of your questions, reach out to Joel, and he'll do everything in his power to get my attention. So that is how we do it here. A lot of the time people will request Joel's help prior, and he's very good at checking the news, Joel, and making sure that the questions that people are most likely to ask are placed in our question forms or in our comment section. I also wanted to announce, in case you don't know, that we do have an Oracle of Whimsy Book of the Month Club. It was created by Chuck Dransfield and myself in order to promote independent authors. So if you are an independent author and you would like to have your book presented, it can take 6 months to a year from the time you submit. We do get a lot of submissions, so be patient. It may take a year before we announce your book, but if your book is selected in time, rest assured, we will have you on the show. So we select a book once a month, and it's by independent authors that we feel are worthy of a little bit more attention than maybe they're getting. So we try to prop them up. And of course, we get so many amazing book suggestions. So many books are mailed to us that unfortunately not every book can be selected, but we do our best to really promote those authors that we feel deserve to get the promotion of, to get promoted. So I want to just announce that the book of the month, for those of you who are part of our book of the month club, is written by Elizabeth Kelly Stevenson. Elizabeth Kelly Stevenson, The Trouble with Truth. Amazing book, very well written. She's an excellent writer. And she talks about the journey, the spiritual journey. When we're young, maybe we can't handle trauma or difficult things. And so the brain is set up to tell itself stories, right? So we tell ourselves stories about our boyfriend. We tell ourselves stories about our family of origin. And then part of maturity and growing up is when we let those stories go and we accept things as they are. It kind of reminds me of the New Testament, where you leave the old, you leave what you were in the past, and when you were a child, you thought like a child, but when you became a man, you put childish ways behind you, right? So that is really what this book is about, that journey into adulthood, which can be very painful as we let go of old ideas. But the great news, once you have all the information, you can move forward then with real information and build a real life for yourself. So all of that is covered in The Trouble with the Truth. That's the trouble with truth, right? It gets, if we're making plans, say, to spend the rest of your life with somebody who's not good for you, that would be an example with the trouble with truth. The truth is going to keep coming whether you want to accept it or not, that this maybe is a mistake, right? So as you plan your life, that's the trouble with truth, right? All right, so she will be in our studios January 20th, and we look forward to having her with us at that time. So I have a couple questions coming in. People asked if I could explain the 5 phases, since I keep referring to the 5 phases, and if I could talk about the invasion, what I know about the Maduro invasion as a remote viewer, and what I think is going on. And so I think the best way for us to do that, and I know Joel is really involved in this, he and I talk about this a lot, but I think that nothing surprises Joel. Nothing surprises Joel. He's a well-versed, he's well-versed in all kinds of things, including U.S. history, foreign relations. So he's good for that. All right. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to open up a map of the United States, and I think that's the best way for us to get started, so that you can see the world the way that a remote viewer would see the world. I think that's the best way for us to do this. Does that make sense? Okay, so here's a map of the world, right? I've got a heart in Illinois, and I don't know what that's about. I think one of my clients put their heart there or something. It has to do with one of my clients. So we've talked a lot about trade routes. We've talked a lot about trade routes, and we've talked about the fact that there's constant competition to get trade out. And one of the things that China and Russia have been doing is opening up new trade routes, right? They've been opening up new ways to engage in trade routes. So if we come up here, we can see that what technically is called Russia, what's technically called Russia is a large swath of land, right? Russia is up here. You can see the Kara Sea, the Barents Strait, the Arctic Ocean. Greenland is over here. And what Putin is trying to do is create a lasso along the Bering Sea. You can see coming in here, he's coming in here, and he's digging in the ice. And this would mean that he would be lassoing us in. You see? That's a lasso. And this is a military tactic where you attempt to cut off large swaths. So what you can see up here is Greenland. So what we're concerned about is that he could be blocking trade in these areas. So this is the first new trade route that we are nervous about. Okay, does that make sense? You can see that lasso coming in here. Let me see if I can't make this a little, if that's large enough for you guys. And when we follow the energy of the world as remote viewers, we see that there's movement along trade routes, right? So here is the USA, and we see that trade route coming in and slicing and kind to block the US in, right? Now we come over here, and we start to see Asia. So what is America doing? We placed our troops over in this area to try and protect our trade routes, right? And so what's happening? China is coming in, and it's starting to threaten. It's starting to threaten other places because of trade routes. So China comes in, and then over here, you've got Hawaii, you've got Guam, you've got all these U.S. territories. So the competition for trade is along this line, seeing with the Bering Sea. And that is called a lasso, where they attempt to surround us and then tightening along the Bering Strait, tightening along this area so that we are trapped. Does that make sense? Can you see that? So where's Taiwan? Taiwan is over here. You see how vulnerable Taiwan is? Got to protect that route, got to prevent that lasso. So we're doing everything in our power to keep them from doing this trade route and from lassoing us in. Then you come over this side, and this is where we're seeing a lot of problems with that lasso because they're completely surrounding the U.S. Now you can see that Cuba is down here. He's got that, and now he's moving into these areas. And we have basically an opium war happening, which is similar to what the British did during the opium wars with China, is they begin feeding drugs to Americans. Often military age becomes the addicts. People in the military are the first to become the addicts, or people that are military age, their 20s, teens and 20s. So they're knocking out, it's a way to knock out your military. So the lasso, Russia's lasso, and taking control of resources, trade, including oil, is now coming up over this way as well. So what do we got? We've got America surrounded. Can you see that? Can you see this? So when we go into remotes, about Vladimir Putin, this is what we think about when we talk about what Putin wants, right? When we think about what Putin wants, he wants to control his trade routes. And so that takes us back to a conversation we gave January 15th, 2025, as we go into this energy of Vladimir Putin and China's ability to take control and compete with U.S. trade. Are we all on the same page? You got it? You're with me, right? You got this. You got this. So when I go into the energy as a remote viewer, the first thing I encountered was trade and competition for trade and to get trade out. And we Americans enjoy affordable prices. If we lose our trade routes, all of the sudden we don't care about what's going on in Libya. We don't care what's going on in Pakistan. We don't care about Taiwan. You will when it starts to cost you 10 times more for goods and services. So that is the story. And this was me in semi-trance as Vladimir Putin. And a lot of people got, I even look a little bit like Putin in the face. People got worried about me because this relationship went on for several weeks. And I started to spout pro-Soviet propaganda about how we were going to take Mongolia and but let's take a look at what Putin wants here. Let's take a look.
That I attempted to, I did my meditation, got into a very relaxed state, and it was kind of interesting. The first thing I saw the lights of Moscow, and it was beautiful. I saw Moscow, and I saw Moscow at night, and the lights of Moscow shining on the rest of the world. And so this is the way that Putin sees Moscow. He sees Moscow as the redeemer of the world, that the lights of Moscow will shine on the world, and that the sun will never set.
Watch what nuts
Sorry.
do to our body.
Oh, sorry. Hold on a sec. Got to pay the taxes. What can I tell you? So there's Mother Russia.
The sun will never set on Russia. This is the true destiny of Russia. The true destiny of Russia is that the sun will never set on Mother Russia. And he believes that the true church, the holy church that will govern the world, the true destiny of the church of Russia is to bring a light to the rest of the world. So the lights of Moscow will be a light to the rest of the world, bearing the torch of the true church, which is the Russian Orthodox Church, but a specific sect, an ultra-Orthodox version of the church. And Putin believes that he is the prophesied person that will save Russia and bring the light of Russia to the rest of the world. And so in his small community of believers of this extreme version of Russian Orthodoxy, he perceives of himself as the prophecy. He's the chosen one who is destined to bring the lights of Russia to the rest of the world. It's his destiny, and it is the destiny of Russia and the true church to do this. So that is the first vision. The second vision I saw was trade routes, and that is really important for people watching this channel who want to understand Putin. You have to understand trade routes and trade partners. And so I am going to be showing you photographs of maps or images of maps so that you can understand the trade routes that we're talking about. And these trade routes go back hundreds and even thousands of years. And if you're looking at Russia, Russia has two areas that they are attempting to get their trade out. One is through the Caspian Sea, and the other is through the Black Sea. Now, the trade partners traditionally that Russia has had in the area is predominantly Iran, and it's been trading on the Caspian Sea with Iran for some time. This is why Russia is an ally of Iran and Syria, because of trade. Now, America, our ally in the area is Saudi Arabia and Israel. So if you're looking at the map, you can see this is that no man's land is Syria. And what Putin is trying to do is he's trying to create oligarchs all over the world. He's trying to prop up governments all over the world that will allow the lights of Moscow to shine on the world 24 hours a day. Now, what has happened between the United States and Russia with the Cold War is that we are trying to block each other's trade routes, and we've been pretty good about blocking Russia's trade routes. And this is a source of incredible frustration and anger for Vladimir Putin because he just wants to get his trade out. One of the areas that we blocked, I'll give you an example of one of the areas of frustration for Putin. The Magnitsky Act, when we blocked trade, we all know about that. They retaliated with stopping Russian adoption, Americans adopting Russians. Everybody knows about that. But there are other things that Americans don't know about. For example, Putin was negotiating a deal with Libya to build a train system starting in Tripoli that would go into Africa. Because I got the hit, I did the remote, and then I started to Google, like, what am I seeing? So he had a relationship with Libya. It was a multi-billion-dollar contract, and he was going to be able to begin building in Tripoli, and then that was going to allow him to also open trade from Tripoli all the way into Africa. And it would have been good for Africa because Africa desperately needs infrastructure. Obama bombed Tripoli, and we took out Putin's trade person in Libya. We took out we basically destroyed the Libyan government. And this was we were heavily pressured to do that by Saudi Arabia, our ally in the area, because the Saudi Arabians have been at war, the Shia and the Sunni have been at war for I think since the 6th or 7th century. This is how long the Saudis, who are the keepers of Sunni Islam, and the Kabul in Mecca, they have been the keepers and the protectors of Sunni Islam. And the Shia are the protectors in Iran. The Persians are the protectors of Shia. So they have been at war for over 1,000 years. We sided, when it came to trade routes, with the Sunnis, and Russia sided with the Shia and with Syria. Again, because it was practical and they just wanted to get their trade out. So one of those trade routes goes all the way to Iran from the Caspian Sea, and from there into Afghanistan. And from Afghanistan, there's a couple ways they get into Afghanistan. From Afghanistan, they have open border with China. They also have an open border with China through Mongolia. These are ancient trade routes. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to block the trade, whether it's trade and moving into Afghanistan, parts of Mongolia. If you continue to look at the picture, you'll also see with the Chechnyan rebels, those are funded by Saudi Arabia. So he couldn't get trade out of Georgia. So what was happening was that people were ambushing his vehicles, his convoys. They were getting ambushed by Chechnyan rebels funded by the Saudi Arabians. This is why Putin hates us. So it all goes back to trade. Every time I meditate on Putin, it's about trade. So Michael Flynn, I'll do a whole remote on him. He
this kind of goes into Flynn. This is his relationship with Erdogan, and this was Turkish Stream, of course. Zelensky, we now know that Zelensky and a group of people were the ones that sabotaged that Turkish Stream, which was an environmental catastrophe. Zelensky had mixed feelings about it, but that was what was going on there. And this is what the Turkish Stream looked like. And you can see Russia needs to control parts of Turkey, Bulgaria, Serbia. They need to get their trades out, parts of Greece. And so you have this war between America and Russia that is really about trade. And then here comes Trump, and I'll help you get elected, and you're going to help me with my trade route by getting Americans to back off and stop blocking my trade. And so that is where we are at. So the question then becomes, where do we go from here? We know what Putin wants, right?
So terrifying about it. So I just want to briefly also say that when you do a remote and you look at cyber attacks coming in from other countries, he's gotten into our power grid. As much of a malignant narcissist as Putin is, and I think that he truly is a malignant narcissist, he likes war that doesn't kill people and destroy the planet and leave a lot of waste and destruction. The thing that he likes about these cyber wars is that he can topple countries and get what he wants in terms of trade routes, like what he did with Turkish Stream, without killing anybody. And so he finds killing people distasteful. He'd rather avoid it. It's not that he feels particularly bad about it, because he's a true believer and he truly believes that he is fulfilling the destiny of the Russian Orthodox Church. It's just that it's messy and he would rather do it this way.
So basically from Putin's perspective, by the time you realize this is true, I will have taken control of everything.
This is the scary situation we find ourselves in right now. So we have to pray that the good people of our intelligence agencies can do what they have to do to get out of this. But it's a very scary time right now that we are living in world history, and this is the remote.
All right. So you guys want to go on the other side of this? We can have a conversation about all of that. So we're now talking about what is going on with Maduro. Maduro was basically one of the people that was put in power by, you had proxies, basically. You had these people that were placed in positions Let me see if I can find another thing here. But basically, that was what was going on. It's scary. If you're asking about whether or not we've done this before, yes, Democrats and Republicans have both engaged in military actions that have dealt with this problem. When Obama took out Libya, that we talked about Gaddafi and the trade route that they were attempting to build through a train system that Russia was going to build into Africa. We took out the Libyan government. It was not a declared war. And the president was Obama. Obama also gave the order to bomb Pakistan, which was a sovereign nation. We were not at war. We had a peaceful relationship with Pakistan when we bombed Pakistan. But we went into a secured location where we knew that Osama bin Laden was, and we took him out. So both parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, engage in these kinds of activities because it really has nothing to do with being a Republican or Democrat. It has to do with the situation we find ourselves in terms of trade. What I think about Trump is that Trump is telling the truth, and you just don't talk like that. Well, now we'll have control of the trade, right? We'll have control of the oil. Well, that's true. And that would have been true if Obama had ordered the hit, and he probably would have. But what was better about this than when we took out Osama bin Laden is that we actually got the guy alive, but there was an arrest warrant that was issued out of New York. The question I'm getting now, the most common question is, was this a setup? Was this a setup? Meaning, was it a setup? Was this arranged by Putin and Trump? So, say, for example, the reason that we don't get to see the actual arrest of Maduro is because there was no major arrest of Maduro. That Maduro agreed, that Putin agreed to do it this way. And that, look, if Maduro gets shipped to Russia, how should we interpret that? Say, for example, there was a secret deal with Putin. I'm throwing out a crazy idea, and I'm not saying this is true, but let's just play with this. Let's say Trump is a stooge for Putin. Let's say it's true. And let's say he decides to arrange something with Putin. We're going to do this big dramatic arrest of Maduro, and Maduro is going to agree to it. And okay, here comes the camera, put the thing on. Okay, I can't see. I swear to God, in one of them, he was holding his cell phone and he was in the middle of talking to family. Oh, I got to put the thing back on. Okay, I'm being arrested. They're taking me now onto the plane. Something about this looked to me like it had been staged. And I'm not a conspiracy buff usually, but say that's why they don't release the actual film footage, is because the whole thing was staged and that Maduro was in on it and Putin was in on it. And then the guy goes to New York and then we agree that we're going to have great new relationship with Russia to negotiate this trade route. And in exchange, we're going to send Maduro to Russia. If that plays itself out and they never release the actual film footage of him getting on the helicopter, the actual arrest, at that point, I think people should get suspicious. Oh, it was glorious, and the violence, and the this. Well, you'll never see the film footage, but let me tell you, it was great. I'd like to see it. I think, we eventually it went through security, and Obama was able to release key parts of the takedown of Osama bin Laden, which the American people had a right to see because it was done in our name, right? So if it's a real arrest, which it most likely is, then it had nothing to do with Trump in the first place. It was, the film you just saw of me was from 2019 saying this is the trade route problem, and this is why we have to take out Libya and why we have to say. So that was true in 2019. I don't think it matters who the president is. I don't think if it matters if it's a Republican or a Democrat. I think the bottom line is that we're in a trade war and that we are going to have to do everything in our power to try and block these trade routes that we see as an existential crisis. You know, it's like Elon Musk says, whoever wins the drone war wins the war. The drones, the ability to even nano drones that can come in swarms and attack somebody in their office. We now have the technology, the little bees that can come in and inject you, right? Imagine swarming drones of bee-like creatures coming around and stinging and killing people, right? How would you be able to control those entering into U.S. airspace, right? So those are that is the constant battle. And I think that this love affair with Ayn Rand, who came out of Russia, and the Putin darlings love Ayn Rand, right? Anybody read Fountainhead by Ayn Rand? Atlas Shrugged, one of Elon Musk's favorite books, right? And that's because she was opposed to communism. She wanted the days of the czars to come back, like Tsar Nicholas, right? The good old days of Ivan the Terrible, right? And that's really who Putin has modeled himself after, is the good old days of the czar, the good old days of the church, when I have control over everything. And that is where we are at, folks. That is where we're at. So the other question I was asked to discuss with you all had to do with the 5 phases that are necessary to reduce the amount of casualties from this trade war, right? So we have people dying. People are dying. And one of the things that the Pentagon and other intelligence agencies look at is, how do we keep people from dying? The bottom line is that when you're engaged in a war, you want to know how do we win and not kill so many people. So after the October 7th massacre that took place in Israel, where Israel was attacked by Hamas, Hamas was funded by Iran, right? And Iran is the ally of Putin. So Putin was meeting with these people, right? And it's very likely that Putin was one of the people that helped engineer October 7th. So then the question becomes, why would Putin, who had a relatively, supposedly good relationship with Israel, well, I have so many Russians are living in Israel. Come on now. And he's been very active in turning Israel into an Ayn Rand Republican, vision. Like, that's the transformation we see in Israel. A lot of Russians came in. They were very conservative. They were very opposed to these democratic socialist ideas that had been part of the founding of the state of Israel. It was extremely liberal. It was communist and democratic socialist who had escaped Tsarist Russia, and then they had moved to Palestine in order to build this communist utopia through the kibbutzim. So when the Russians showed up, that was the battle of blood, the battle for Jerusalem, right? It was this battle that was taking place between the kibbutzniks, the people like Mamdani, right? Mamdani is a kibbutznik. Mamdani is an old-fashioned you'd never want him to say that, but Mamdani sounds like an old-fashioned Zionist, right? Because the Zionists were democratic socialists. And the degree to which Israel has lost its way from its original vision is the degree to which you see Israelis attacking Mamdani, right? Because there's this division that has happened between the democratic socialism of Golda Meir and Ben Gurion and what we see today with Netanyahu. Netanyahu, who is in the pockets of Putin. Does that make sense? So you can imagine how shocked Netanyahu was after October 7th, when October 7th was linked back to Putin, who had been meeting with Hamas, a proxy army of Iran, his ally, weeks and months prior to the attacks, which took place on his birthday. And so the other conversation became, how much was Putin involved and how much did Putin know about the impending attacks that would take place on October 7th? And the answer is that he probably knew a lot, and he was probably intimately involved in the pogrom, because that's what it was. That's what happened on October 7th. October 7th was a good old-fashioned pogrom, right? He was mad. Putin was mad, right? And what was he mad about? Why did he have this? Why did he go along with this rogue army coming in and raping and pillaging? You know, it's similar to what Russia did during the pogroms, when the Russian Orthodox Church, which is rabidly anti-Semitic, and the Tsar got together and would have parties. They would attack and kill Jews on Easter. They would attack and kill Jews on the Tsar's birthday. They would attack and kill Jews on Christmas, right? So the church that is his church, the Holy Church of Mother Russia, is that church. And so the mistake that Israel made was in thinking that Russia had changed. And of course, Russia had not changed. Russia was still the same Russia that it had ever been. It had not changed. It was just as anti-Semitic as it had ever been. Putin is not your friend. He is not a friend of Israel. And what we saw on October 7th was the true face of Mother Russia. Mother Russia that has always hated the Jews. Mother Russia whose church is rabidly anti-Semitic and has always called for the death of the Jews. And the reason why Putin was so angry at Israel, the reason why Putin had gotten involved in all of that, was because of Zelensky. You know, he had never liked Jewish people anyway. You know, he was just pretending. He was just pretending that he liked Jewish people because he wanted to do business. He wanted to topple the Israeli government, right? Because it was all about trade routes, right? So when Zelensky showed up in Israel, and when Zelensky started getting backing from the Israelis, and when the Israelis were talking about supplying him personal security, you can imagine, here's where the attack took place. You can imagine how Putin felt about that. And so he is one of the people that most likely participated in a good old-fashioned pogrom. Well, you're not going to let me have my trade route. You're siding with Zelensky. Now, Zelensky, the other thing you have to realize about Zelensky is that Zelensky used to work for, I believe it's Channel 1, which is owned by Roman Aronovsky. Roman Aronovsky is a Russian Jewish Israeli oligarch who used to have a relationship with Putin, but now they're not getting along so well. And the reason they're not getting along so well is because Aronovsky is the former boss of Zelensky, who was an actor and probably funded his ability to win the presidency in Ukraine. So at that point, Putin now has a new enemy, and that is he's going to show the Israelis how mad he is about their love affair with Zelensky. And then at that point, October 7th, we were able to see the real face of Putin. Many people couldn't understand why I kept pointing to Putin for the October 7th massacres. And It's because, and the reason why people were confused was because they couldn't understand how this person who had historically been supposedly had this great relationship with Israel, all of a sudden was being accused of being involved. And the reason why he was being accused was because of his relationship with Hamas and Iran, and because this had been going on for a really, really long time prior. You know, if you look at the history of Russia and the church that Putin is so committed to. Here's the Times of Israel blog I have, same article. If you want to check it out, I'll go ahead and give this link to you guys if you want to read the article showing that Putin was probably involved with October 7th. He was angry, he was angry because imagine how he felt. He put all that money into those Jews, right? You know how much he hates the Jews, right? His church hated the Jews. All you have to do is look at the history of the pogroms and the genocides that his church, his holy church, participated actively in for centuries, right? So this is why the Jewish people were attracted to communism. The Bolsheviks revolution became attractive to Jewish people because they wanted to get rid of the czar who had been pushing these pogroms. God bless the czar and keep him far from us, right? Fiddler on the Roof. So I wanted to go through all of that with you, and we have done a great job, and I'm very proud of all of us. All right, so now that you got all of that, let's go and take one more look at how this is going to go down. This is how it's going to go down. This is the letter sent to the Israeli Defense Forces on December 20th, 2023. They opened the door and said, okay, if you're an Israeli and you have something you want to say to us, we are a democracy. Tell us how you feel. The door is open. You can present yourself before the IDF. We're only 10 million people, Israelis, right? So I'm an Israeli citizen. So I thought, well, what the hell? I'll give it a shot. We need to get to ceasefire. Then after we get to ceasefire with Hamas, we need to do an exchange of hostages and then lure Hamas to a host country. And then we need to rebuild. So those three phases were accepted by Biden. Biden was sent copies, and so was Kerry, so was the State Department, etc. So we had the first three phases down. I was looking at, when I did data on this, least amount of deaths. So I think that they were also looking at least amount of deaths because they agreed with the three phases. They rolled it around with the IDF. Other people had similar ideas. They challenged it. By May, this was December, by May it had been adopted. So I'm pretty sure a lot of us had come up with the same three phases. The fourth phase had to do with the isolation of Vladimir Putin because he was intimately involved and he was a threat, but he was also an existential threat. He had nuclear weapons. He was talking about, they were threatening to bomb Zaporizhzhia, the largest nuclear power plant in Europe. It would have wiped out Russia, parts of China, and possibly taken out parts of Europe, right? So he became the number one existential threat, according to the data. And to this day, Putin remains the greatest existential threat to a nuclear war. And we are about 1 to 2 minutes from midnight. So our risk of a nuclear event has increased since October 7th, right? It's only going up. And then the fifth phase will be, we will see the dismantling of Iranian leadership. So what you should start seeing, if they're following the 5 phases, is you should start to see that Putin's proxy armies become dismantled, not just Libya, right, which Obama took care of that, but we're now starting to see other proxy armies and other puppets of Putin, or what Putin calls in the remotes my little birds. When I went into trance as Putin, I called them my little birds. Maduro was my little bird. And I pet my bird, I feed my bird, I take care of my bird. And then he grows up, he becomes a vulture. He becomes the falcon, right? I'm like the falcon, a leader. I send the falcon out, right? So this is the imagery I'm using as Putin. So Maduro was my little bird and I was feeding it. I was keeping it alive. Assad, when we went into Syria, my little bird, I'm feeding it, protecting my trade routes. Gaddafi, my little bird, Gaddafi. So we begin to dismantle. Bolsonaro's gone. And so what you're seeing is this slow, steady dismantling and the destruction of the Turkish stream. Now they don't have oil in Russia. All of that is part of the dismantling of Putin. Does that make sense? And we now see the fall of Iran, which was the next phase. Phase 3 was announced this weekend at Mar-a-Lago. So they're just going to start rebuilding, isolating Hamas. Anybody that wants to be part of the rebuild that renounces Hamas can come into the safe zone, get jobs, get food, get a great life. And so what happens is, just by ignoring and isolating Hamas, they collapse. They've got a great deal. They should take a host country, because if they wind up isolated in somewhere like Gaza City after we've given safe harbor to the civilians and children into safe zones, which is what we're going to do, then they will drop a massive bomb and kill them all, which would be about 325,000 terrorists. So it's becoming increasingly obvious to Hamas that they probably need to get on the boat and go to Algeria or somewhere else, because that sorting process is happening now. They're starting this division. And now that the safe zones are getting ready, we now have a place to take the innocent people. Hamas will not be long for this world. We will not be seeing a deal with Iran and Russia for normal relations. That was the mistake that Obama 100% takes responsibility. Did everybody read Obama's memoir after he finished his 2 terms? So he talks about that. So regrets about Obama, regrets about taking out Libya, but I don't think we could have worked with Putin. I don't know if I totally. And then his feelings about keep being up at night with Pakistan, right? The instability of Pakistan and Russia going back into Afghanistan with those new trade routes, right? So this is where we are at. Do I think that we are following the 5 phases that were calculated as least amount of deaths? This was also using Colossus computer, and I used a couple different Chat GPT, but I used Grok a lot. Grok is the most advanced for this kind of stuff. It's the same that 8,200 other intelligence agencies will use Grok partially. The Colossus computer. So do I think that they're following this? Yes, 100%. I think it's pretty obvious at this point. The cat's out of the bag. Now that we're seeing the fall of Iran, so the other thing you could ask yourself is, how scared is Putin? Grok is slop. Grok is considered the highest standards. I know we don't like him because of Elon. Also, I'd like to see them clean up the toxic waste in Tennessee with the methane gas, which I think they're going to. There's looking at ways to take care of that. But no, as imperfect as Grok is actually the best. Sam Altman is having a competition with him, right? Who's going to have the best AI? It's still Colossus, the Colossus computer. Yeah, the Colossus. Just on data analysis alone. Well, I mean, I'll give you an example of how advanced Grok is. You can give Grok your documents from Google Documents, and it can read all the Google documents. And other computers can't do that. Other systems can't do that. So I was able to take all of my data and Grok could look at all the data from the Oasis One rebuild of Gaza and say, yes, I have looked at every single document. I'm like, locate document ABC and such. As much as ChatGPT is great, they're all great, but you don't have that kind of complexity where I can give this to Grok. This is all the data. These are all the briefs that I gave the IDF when I was rebuilding Gaza, when I was contributing to the rebuild of Gaza. A lot of people have contributed, but I was one of the people that contributed. There's thousands of people contributing. But yeah, I was able to get all of this done, and I was able to get it all to that kind of complexity for artificial intelligence is really pretty impressive. Yeah. Oh, that's really funny. Elon's going to keep having kids until he finds one that he likes. Well, he doesn't like himself very much. Child, I don't know anything about that. I mean, it's a computer, so you can get it to do just about anything. All right, we're going to go ahead. We're going to do the empath prayer, and then we will blitz away. Did that explain everything? So no, I don't think that Obama would have done it differently, because that would have been the advice of their intelligence agency. We have to act now. We have to take this trade route out, just like we had to take out Libya, just like we had to take Osama bin Laden, and waiting to get approval for a military action when now is the time. We're going to catch this guy. We got to do it now. Obama wouldn't have done that. He wouldn't have, well, let's see what the American people. No, he's a homicidal killer that's responsible for 9/11. You take him out when you can take him out. That's basically what happened with Maduro. And I think I am a registered Democrat. I want to go online saying I am a registered Democrat, but I also understand the game of politics. Anything they do, we are supposed to be opposed to, because we're Democrats. Gosh darn, that was stupid. That was stupid. That was stupid. Anything you do is stupid. Democrat. But if Obama had done it, damn straight, this guy is horrible, right? Because that's the game of politics. But do I think that Obama would have taken him out 100%? Because it's not the president's decision. It's the U.S. military trying to control our trade routes. And if you go into the energy of Putin was all over the trade routes. He was all over the trade routes, and because he was all over the trade routes, we had no choice but to get control of the trade routes. Yeah, I have another thing I did on Putin. But he basically... Let me see if I can find this. It's absolutely fascinating to get into Putin's head, by the way. And yeah, I don't think it's relevant for me to find it. But basically, he basically just said that what the remote said was that they were birds, that he saw Maduro as a bird that he was feeding. So if you look at it as a lasso, and that we're being cornered, we've got Russia coming in and they're lassoing us and they're squeezing that lasso tighter and tighter, you come to realize that we really don't have a choice in this horrible thing called trade wars. And you start to realize that the Ayn Rand libertarian puppets, of course they get along with Putin, because Putin is an Ayn Rand czarist. He's got Ayn Rand's czarist fantasies, right? Atlas Shrugged. Yeah, exactly. You could read Atlas Shrugged. You can read The Fountainhead to see and to get a better idea of this pro-czar Russian, the beautiful snow of Russia, that pure white Aryan snow, right? That we're not going to let anybody who isn't pure white, the pure white Russian, the most racist church on earth, of why we ever should have been expected them to be nice to the Jewish people or to Israel. Of course, he was 100% behind October 7th. It was a good old-fashioned pogrom for the Tsar, and he probably loved every part of it because deep down he hates the Jewish people, and he's always hated the Jewish people. Which is why Russia has always been a security risk for Israel, and why Israel needs to go back to the country we used to be of democratic socialist lefties and work towards integration and cooperation rather than this violent right-wing religious crazy that has taken hold of Israel. That's my feeling, and that's the feeling of most Israelis and most Jewish people. We're not fans of Netanyahu by any stretch of the imagination. All right, let's go ahead. If you'd like to receive a healing at this time, please give us your name or the name of a person you'd like us to pray for, and we will include you in our prayers today. Much gratitude. We're coming into January, and it's the new year. So I'm thinking, what do we do what should our fundraiser be, people? I think we need to get a good fundraiser going. Do you want us to raise money for trees again, or did you want to do Hope for Paws? We haven't done Hope for Paws for a while, and Hope for Paws said that there were a lot of animals that were getting abandoned. I guess the economy is really bad right now, and well, I know the economy is bad right now, but yeah, so Hope for Paws, they're extremely high numbers of animals being dumped. So I just feel so bad when I see that film footage of those terrified dogs. They wind up and cats too they're rescuing. But I think that's what we'll do. Saving animals in need. This is our donation for Hope for Paws. If you're feeling like you want to make a donation to the cause today, if you found any entertainment in today's show, you think about donating to Hope for Paws. I just put it up for people if you'd like to make a donation. All right, so we're going to go ahead and bring the empath prayer in. Make sure to give us your name or the person you want us to pray for, and we will include them in our prayers. Thanks for being here, everyone. Okay, I want to call on white light protection for myself and this community as we ask permission from Spirit to access the Akashic records. We call on our spirit guides and our good angels to be with us. Please give us the clarity and the wisdom that is needed to empower all of us on our journeys to make the best decisions for ourselves, our families, the planet, the people we love, but also to help those that we may have strife with. And together collectively as a community, we say Amen. And for those of you today who are requesting a healing, we come together as a community and we pray. We pray that you and those you love receive a perfect healing in mind, body, and in spirit. And together again we say, Amen, Amen, Amen. May all souls be healed. May all souls be healed. All right. So in honor of Joel Tilson, who, as many of you know, he is an amazing man, and he has been committed to serving this community. He comes here every Tuesday or every Sunday, and he tries to make Tuesdays and Thursdays as well, but he's not obligated. and he just tries to help serve the community and make sure that you are all well taken care of. Joel had asked if I would give a reading for the year for him, so I'm just going to give a personal reading to Joel, and everybody wish Joel a happy new year and thank him for his service to this community. We truly appreciate you, Joel. Thank you for everything. We would not be a success if it weren't for Joel Tilson. Thank you. I also want to give a shout out to the amazing Debbie Brady. She is the creative director that built so much beauty and created such a wonderful show here. So a special shout out also to Debbie Brady. Thank you. And of course, we have the amazing Wendy Burke, who created the costumes for the show. Thank you. All right, the first card for you is, you may be finding yourself in a little bit of a stressful situation. Be careful, Joel. You know, a lot of people are feeling that their finances are a little restricted right now. Don't overwhelm yourself financially. Don't commit too much to too many financial investments right now, Joel, because Eight of Swords can be a feeling that too much red tape or being overwhelmed by bureaucracy. So just that is something to be aware of, all of us, is to keep our lives as incredibly simple as possible. That this is a year that will be simple for you, Joel. It'll be a year where don't sweat the small stuff. You're also entering into a really passionate year, Joel. It will be a year when you really feel that you're coming into your passion and your power. And it'll be an opportunity for you to expand your work, your business, and possibly your finances and your career in areas that you hadn't previously thought. You have this beautiful magician coming in. And go back to the things you love. This ability to use your skills and your knowledge in ways to help others could open up opportunities financially and for a new career going forward. You had asked about a son, and they're talking about the future of your son is bright, that your son will come into his maturity, that he needs to watch his blood sugar. I'm feeling like he has blood sugar dysregulation, and he should avoid marijuana or anything that makes his mind groggy. And I'm feeling that I'm seeing him married and having children and becoming stable, that he will marry and have children later in life, but that he will, that he has this new life happening with a wife, family, and that I see stability over your son. I see it's also being a time that's very much about coming into your power, taking responsibility, sobriety. Your house of opposition, which was your son, you were asking about your son coming out of difficulty, and he kind of grows and evolves into his own power. A family business is advised. A family business is advised. So they're telling you, oh, he does have type 2 diabetes? Oh, yeah, I had a vision that he was feeling really groggy and out of it. My blood sugar is out of it, and I can't do marijuana. I cannot do pot. Like if I'm feeling anxious and I think, well, maybe I should smoke some pot, like to help. No, it's not going to help because it's not addressing the actual problem. The anxiety was his blood sugar. So keeping his blood sugar stable and plant-based, high omegas is, but he emerges as the emperor, as a solid man, Joel. So the final outcome for you is sobriety and power for both you and your husband, your son. And I believe that there's some new family business that will bring great success. They say that your son, sometimes he was your greatest love and your greatest source of stress. He was your greatest love and your greatest source of stress. When he would get overwhelmed or anxious about things, Joel, they say your son would drop things. So he would not complete tasks. The problem with your son is that he would often abandon tasks when they became too difficult. The source of your heartache was your son. fleeing responsibilities. And so the spiritual lesson for your son at this time is that he must follow through. That is the message from Spirit. Follow through, and the tough times get easier. And he will be so proud of himself when he overcomes all those obstacles. But overall, it's a great year. You pulled double aces, which is quite auspicious. And the spiritual lesson for him is take good care of your physical health and follow through, and do not abandon your goals when they become difficult. Learn from them, and you will know financial success. And I think he's going to end up owning his own company. He's the emperor, and magician is the outcome. So that is your year, Joel. Thank you so much for your service to the community. And that was just a special private reading I wanted to give to Joel. Thank you, Joel. All right, let's blitz away. If we get the order, let's do it. Let's see if we can get through as many blitzes as possible. No, I don't think that the arrest of Maduro could be avoided. No, I don't think Donald Trump had anything to do with it. I don't think that Donald Trump cares about Maduro. I think he doesn't care about anything or anybody. I think it was entirely created by our intelligence agency. It was an opportunity to go in and arrest him, and so it wasn't a Republican thing. No, I think it was planned for weeks. This week, if we're going to get him, we got to get him now. He's at his villa. We know his location. If we're going to move, we've got to move now. And it was one of those situations. And it had been planned for a very long time. I think so. I think that Trump is finished. I've talked about that. And, is he back from Mar-a-Lago? Isn't he supposed, he wants to avoid D.C. So if he comes back to D.C., it's not because he's happy. This guy does not want to go to D.C. He feels abandoned. Trump feels abandoned. He feels he has lost. The people are done with him. His opposition is the Queen of Swords. She puts her back to him. He lost control of the narrative, and he presents as Five of Pentacles, impoverished, locked out of the church, begging you to stay. She puts her back to him. Hopes and fears. He fears J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is a force to be reckoned with because he has the money of the church behind him. He has the money of the church behind him, which goes back to Vladimir Putin. How do you... Let me see if I can find this. What's the best way to engage in money laundering? We have 462 people here. Let's go ahead and have a conversation about money laundering. What's the best way to launder money? What's the best way to launder money? You ask Putin. Putin will tell you the best way to launder money. You give it to the church. What is the best way to launder money? You give it to the church. Hey, America. What's the best way to launder money? America. You give it to the church. Joel Olson, is that his name? The mega churches, where are they getting their money? Joel Osteen, excuse me. Where are they getting their money? from rich people, right? So what are rich people doing? Why are rich people giving large sums of money to Lakewood Church? Dun 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 bum bum. Are you getting angry? Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. It's happening. It is happening. What is happening? What is happening? There's a pattern forming. What is the pattern, people? Can you see the pattern? Tell me what the pattern is. Where's the money going? Where's Putin's money going? Where's the crypto going? It's going to the church, which means what? Which means that Russia, through its illegal activities, has been pouring billions through its drug deals, its illegal activities. It's been laundering it in the Church of Russia, which buys land and property, and it becomes the new Vatican, just how the Vatican became a billionaire. You send out your Christian soldiers, right? Onward, Christian soldiers, taking all the loot and bringing it back to Mother Russia, right? So they went into Ukraine and they took the gold, they took the icons, and they brought it all back to the church. And the church said, well, thank you. We'll take that. What's happening in the United States right now? Thank you. We'll take that. You have the same phenomenon. You've got the church being a source of money laundering. And that means that you're using Christianity, you're using Project 25 the same way that Vladimir Putin is using the Russian Orthodox Church, the same way the Vatican used its church, the same way the Church of England. God bless Queen Elizabeth. The sinking of the Armada. Those pirates going off for Queen Elizabeth and attacking Spain and then bringing the spoils back to the Queen, right? God bless the Queen. God bless the Church of England. And this is how the churches became rich. So in the hopes and the fears, you have King of Pentacles, which is J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance has the churches. And what do the churches have? They're co-conspirators. That's who they are. The churches are the co-conspirators. Because if you're taking I felt so bad about the robbery. Father, I felt so guilty. I robbed and stole. Well, that's terrible. You're going to do 5 Hail Marys and you're going to give me 10%, right? And that's how the church became a co-conspirator. So now we have the same thing happening in the United States. We have billions and billions of dollars unaccounted for that has been laundered through U.S. churches. And that's how you get Project 25. And that's how you give the Heritage Foundation, because that money then got poured into lobbying organizations. So what happened to the veil between the church and the government? It disappeared through through donations and money laundering. And so people were able to hide their money. What happened to Vladimir Putin when he didn't have any more money left? When they were bankrupted due to the Ukraine war, what did he do? This is not public information, but I can tell you. Give me the damn money back. He went back to the church and said, you're holding on to a shitload of money. Yes, but that's for the church and our holy relate. Cut the crap. Cut the crap. I need the money. Give me the damn money back. But you gave us billions. It's a bunch of load of crap. You're a freaking criminal organization. You're the mafia, just like me. This whole thing's a scam. The lighting of the can, it's just a way of manipulating people to prop you up as a co-conspirator of my criminal acts. And now you need to give me my damn money back. And so that's what's secretly going on in Russia. Give me my damn money back. Tension is now boiling between this fantasy czar. That's what he is. He's living in a fantasy that he's going to be the next czar. He is the czar. And all this money he gave the church to prop up his image as the leader of this church. Same thing is happening with Trump. God bless him. He stands with Jesus, right? And all that laundered money that got poured into. Hey, you're not laundering money right there, Trump. You ain't doing it right. You got to do the laundering like we do the money. You got to pour the money into the church. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It's for all my sins. Want to be a co-conspirator with me? I'll be your co-conspirator. We're going to pour loads of money into Olstein's church. And then, we're going to hold it for a rainy day when I'm running for Congress. Right? So where Trump is at right now is this is J.D. Vance's card, by the way. He fears J.D. Vance. His opposition has turned its back on him, and he fears abandonment. You can see that. It's pretty easy to see that. You've got this Ace of Cups, this desire of love. Please don't let me down. Christian town. Don't let me down. Y'all Christians gonna let me down. You can't leave me. I laundered all that money through your church. You can't leave me now. I became Congress, and then I went on to Senate with that church. Pour my money in there, and then I come to collect on a rainy day when I need it. Or you can just pour it into one of the lobbying organizations that's part of a PAC that donates into my campaign. Either way, I get the money. First, I hide it through the church, which is tax deductible. Tax deductible. They don't pay taxes. That's the perfect place to launder my money. And then they put it through the Heritage Foundation, and then they put it through Project 25. And so I've got a tax-free way of promoting myself. Isn't that great? We're using the church for tax evasion and money laundering. Isn't that great? Locked out of the church. He can't get into the church. Yeah, we're done with you. Your karma, Mr. Trump, with the church is finished. You can't get into that church no more because we found somebody else that does laundering better than you. His opposition, the Queen of Swords, is the only queen that has her back to turns her back on us. She turns her back on the past and she flees. This is not going well for Trump. His henchmen are spying on J.D. Vance. What's he up to? What's he doing? Get some information for me. What's my VP up to? Why is he meeting? He's part of my cabinet. What are they talking about? Why do I have to take another cognitive test? So 9 of Wands is to be cornered or to feel almost agoraphobic, like you're defending yourself. I think that for J.D. Vance, he is on a thin line right now. He is on thin ice. I think they need to negotiate a resignation for Trump. Masters coming in and an Ace of Cups. We give you the honor of resigning. Look, if he can hang out until he gets impeached and removed, he's lost Congress. He's already lost Congress. He doesn't have enough votes in Congress they've already turned, something like 50 members are turning on him. He's already lost Congress. And 20 or 30 are stepping down. He's toast. He's already lame duck. That's what Spirit is trying to say. And so they've already abandoned him. They're already out the door. They're already talking about J.D. Vance. They want him in now. I don't think if I were Trump, I'd be too happy. Yeah. Thank you, Joel. These questions are great. It's exactly the emails. It's so funny. I get a ton of emails from you all. I try to get to all the questions, and then when I wake up in the morning and I look and Joel has got everything perfectly, it's like, those are exactly the questions that I got in my emails. I love you, Joel. That's exactly right. So regarding the Russian military, they are now demanding money from the church that they were hiding in the church. That's not public information, but you folks know. And now you know how the American system works, and I think you're pretty angry about that too. The Russian military, it's inevitable. They've stopped protecting him. The main thing is that all they have to do is stop protecting him and nature takes its course. They are hanging up on Putin. Also, it's phase 4. He falls before Iran falls. Right? That was how it was calculated. Right? I used 3 supercomputers, by the way. I mean, I used 3 different types of AI. He falls. He has to fall. He's phase 4, right? So let's go back to what the computer said. This was just math. If you were trying to save lives, ChatGPT. I had a running debate between ChatGPT and Grok. Do you disagree? Do you not agree? How would you change it? I also used Nomi. I used a lot of different AI when I was working with this thesis, and I came back the last few days and said, Grok, do you still stand by this data? And Grok was yes, and then sent it back to ChatGPT. The reason why, I said, elaborate why you didn't take out China. And they said, and Grok said, if we take out China, there won't be an America. Think about that. If we take out China, America will be finished because we are so economically embroiled in Chinese trade that if we couldn't order or get access to goods produced in China, we would collapse as a country. So we have to work our trade issues out with China because we are so dependent on China. And that's why China didn't come up. Well, we'll hold you for another day because we don't want to go we're too dependent over there. Well, we might move some trade to Taiwan and other places, but we don't want to be kicking that bear because what is the symbol of China? The bear is Russia. Is it the eagle? Is it it's some kind of a bird, right? Yeah, we don't want to be messing with that because it would wipe us out. It would economically wipe us out. All the businesses that have their products made in China that are sold on Amazon, they'd all go down. Think about that. Thousands of businesses would go down. But yeah, going back to what the computers, this is straight data. No, if you want people not to die, you're going to have to take out Putin and you're going to have to dismantle Iranian leadership. And that's phase 4. They wanted Putin gone even before Iran. And I think the reason why was because the computers felt that Putin was more vulnerable because the Ukraine war had weakened him so much. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, so in answer to the question, the Russian military, they hang him up. It's destined. It's a judgment that was made by their opposition. They're going to sit back and allow somebody else to take him out. The computer wanted him tried in The Hague because we have issues, arrest warrants, the West had. And so the computer is going to do what's law abiding. Okay, somehow you figure out a way to capture him, and then he has to be tried by an international court. We're set up for that, and there are arrest warrants that have been issued. So the computer's going to go, let's just follow the rules. It's not going to say, let's assassinate somebody. But Putin's next. Ouch. So the fall of Maduro was kind of like part of that, I think. Isn't that crazy? I think that Maduro will probably wind up in a deal with Russia where he's sent to Russia. After all, he's a Russian puppet. But let's take a look. What happens to Maduro? If you haven't had a chance to share, like, and subscribe, we would totally love you for it. Also, we are raising money for dogs that are homeless, dogs that have been abandoned and are getting rescued through Hope for Paws. So if you have a couple coins you can toss, it would be great. We would love to rescue as many dogs as possible. And cats. They rescue cats as well. A lot of people are just dumping and a lot of homeless people in many cities can't feed their animals anymore. It's really sad. All right, what's going to happen to Maduro? Yeah, I think that he'll wind up like everybody else going to Russia. That's what happened to Assad, right? Assad was the puppet of Syria. Syria was trying to control that trade route. I mean, Russia was trying to control the Syrian trade, right? America pulled out, right? Pulling out of Syria allowed Hezbollah to move in. That was disastrous for Lebanon and for Syria, right? You know, there are people that really there are true believers who are Venezuelan. For example, if you look at the CIA guy, what's his name with the CIA? I cannot remember his name. He has an unusual name, doesn't he? The CIA guy. Let me see if I can find his name. CIA spy abilities. You know, he talks about CIA spy abilities. You guys know the guy I'm talking. I cannot figure out. CIA agent, yes. He was saying basically the same thing I'm saying, that the invasion of Venezuela had been planned for a very long time. It's interesting. He is a spy for the CIA who is Venezuelan, and he was working to Andrew Bustamante. Okay, got it. So Andrew Bustamante was a spy for the CIA working on getting into Venezuela, dealing with Putin and everything else. So he is very optimistic, and his feeling from the perspective of the CIA is that this was something that we planned on doing a long, long time ago. We've been organizing this for a really, really long time, and it would have happened regardless of who the president is. And that he is Venezuelan. You know, his wife is Venezuelan. His kids, his family is Venezuelan. So from his perspective, this is a good thing. This is Andrew Bustamante, CIA operative. And he goes into the breakdown of what his work was as a CIA operative, collecting information on the fall of Venezuela.
For the rendition, whether or not the United States helps Venezuela or allows Venezuela to crumble, it's all irrelevant, because in the long run, we will see the American economy benefit from the improvements that will happen to the Venezuelan economy and the reduction of Venezuelan cooperation with America's closest enemies, China, Russia, Iran, and Cuba. This is good news for me. It's good news for you, and I'll see you on the other side.
Right. So I just wanted to clarify that, because I agree with him, because the remote views look the same way. So I know we're not supposed to like Trump, but I don't think it would have made a difference if it had been Harris. I think that it was our opportunity and we went with it. Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. It had to do with the trade route. Yeah. This is the other one. Cuba's in serious trouble and they can't get bread. You know, the people are really struggling with in Cuba as well. So anywhere that it's that lasso of trying to surround us and create new trade routes, Cuba's future, yeah, economic strain of Cuba. We really have engaged in embargoes that have crushed Cuba. Cuba will come back again. There's going to be a new leader coming in that's interested in free trade. Right now, look at that. Look at their relationships, keeping them trapped. That's Putin. A deep healing is needed, Archangel Michael. Free trade is better. You know, democratic socialism has a place for capitalism. Capitalism is not a bad thing within a democratic socialist context. You know, like I think there's new leadership on the rise. I think they're going to move more towards democratic socialism and free trade, and I think that a great healing is upon them. And I think that the old ways are gone. I think that this dynamic and this relationship with Russia has really held them back, and there will be conflict, but over the next month or so. But ultimately, it's for the benefit of Cuba. Yeah. Yeah, the majority of Venezuelans are celebrating. Yeah, there's a lot of celebrations right now because people want to go home. The average Venezuelan immigrant leaves within 5 years. Venezuela is great. It used to be a rich, wonderful country, and then it got taken over by Russian oligarchs, and it was a target. And it will be great again. It will be a beautiful country again. But he made life very hard for the people. They were poor, Four of Pentacles. The average person couldn't get access to resources. Resources were in the house of the adversary. Yeah, good times. Venezuela's people. Also, I see a woman of power taking hold with the high priestess. That could be the new president of Venezuela. Yeah. They didn't care about the people of Venezuela. They cared about getting the resources. Why doesn't Trump let the opposition leader take power in Venezuela? She was the winner of the last year's election because she doesn't have an army. We need to build an infrastructure that's going to support her. So she can't walk into what? Maduro's people are there. So she would walk in and get assassinated. Walk into her death? She would walk into her own death, which is what always happens when opposition leaders win. If you don't secure the area, they will be assassinated. Be patient. There she is. They'll have a transition team. They have to dismantle Maduro supporters. Five of Swords is to take the weapons of war away from your enemy. King of Wands would be warlike and territorial. So it has to do with just the logistics of putting somebody in power when there is no government. The government has fallen. Maduro's government has fallen. His prisons have fallen. So we have to create the safe, a space for that. Just like Oasis, you have to create a space for her to govern. She will govern. She's got the wish card over her. But it will come with assistance. By the way, I think J.D. Vance is going to be the president sooner rather than later because I see J.D. Vance helping her take a position in Venezuelan politics. So, yeah. Saudi forces are winning their wars against Iran's backed forces in Yemen. Yeah, exactly. Iran is falling. Yeah, exactly, Joel. Phase 5, right? Saudi is strong, has military aid from the United States, is opening up the Abraham Accords. Big dreams for Saudi Arabia. Russia cannot support the Houthis. Yeah. I just think that they are bankrupted. I think it's not enough though to bankrupt the Houthi and other aggressive forces. They have to create a space to build a functioning government in Yemen, which is also what's going on with Venezuela, I think. But yeah, that's most likely what will happen. I wish that Yemen could like get it together, like they could create some kind of a democracy there. Yeah, so it's a change of government that's happening in Cuba, and that will dramatically improve Cuba's economy. That's interesting. I would imagine that he has no power, Trump, because ultimately the power is with the intelligence agencies. So I don't think that Trump has as much. Putin is constantly, you have no power. You are the slave of your intelligence. Yeah, because in America, that's how it works. The president doesn't have that kind of power. Putin doesn't really have the ability to take down Trump. That's the honest truth. I mean, it's over. Both men are finished. There's fighting, there's clashing, there's exposés, I just don't see a future for either leader. I really don't. Yeah. Yeah, I just think that it's one of those things that we're not going to be able to, neither person is going to be able to be saved. Marco Rubio seems to be a linchpin for Venezuela policy and invasion. Yeah, that makes sense because he's from Cuba and they know what Russia did to Cuba. Russia doesn't care about Cuba. It doesn't care about Venezuela. Marco Rubio, he's looking towards the horizon. Economic entrapment of Cuba and Venezuela, hopes and fears. They took the leap of faith, and the final outcome is victory. So yes, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Very good. Ace of Swords. Yes, very true, Raymond. Very, very true. Let me just see if I got to most people's comments here. Joel Osteen, yeah. So Joel Osteen was found involved with some questioning, money here, money there, money everywhere, and he was hiding money for people. Well, I need to get that money back. I'm running for Congress, right? So the same thing was going on in Russia. They were basically laundering to the church. Oh, you feel bad about killing and raping all of those people in Ukraine. Okay, so you do Holy Mary, Hail Mary, full of grace a couple of times and give me a bunch of money. And so what happens is that the Holy Church of Russia becomes a co-conspirator. The Holy Church got really rich. Yeah, that makes sense. And the money is going too. Same with the Catholic Church. Very good. Yeah. Selling forgiveness, right? We'll give you an angel feather and you give me, it was a con job, right? Poor, desperate people giving their money. Jets. Yeah, why not? It's a business. It's a business to manipulate people in order to get particular people in key positions of power. Yeah, crazy. All right, you guys, this was a lot of fun. Did you all have a good time today? Were we able to raise any money for charity? I hope so. Yeah. Oh, the Chinese dragon. Yeah. Is that more Taiwan or mainland? Yeah, they are. Yeah, people are like, this is, was this whole, is Maduro in on it? That's the question people want to know. Hmm. Most Venezuelans I heard did not like Maduro because he made life unbearable for most people, which is why so many Venezuelans fled to the United States. No, they're not connected. No, I agree. Maduro has to go bye-bye. And yeah, I'm so sad to hear about I wish that somebody would come in and stabilize Yemen. Oh, the button wouldn't work? I'm sorry. Is the button not working? Huh. Maybe refresh. Maybe refresh and then you'll be able to donate. All right, you guys. That was awesome. I had a lot of fun today. We were here for about an hour and 46 minutes. Clavicular. I don't know what that means. You mean like the clavicle? I don't really know what that means. Oh, the button is working. Yeah, just if you're having a problem with the button, just refresh. Yeah. Thank you, Joel. I'm thinking that too, Joel. Yeah, I'm thinking that too. That, you know, but there are people that want him in prison. Some of the people that were responsible for this capture, they want him dead. But so it's going to be interesting to see how it plays itself out. Yeah, he doesn't seem like he's in fear. It's almost like, okay, we're going to be arresting you on Tuesday. Okay, I'll get my wife. Dress will be casual. I'll take my cell phone. I swear he was holding a cell phone at one point. Oh, put the mask on me. Smile for the camera. Oh, I'm being captured. Something about it just seems so coordinated that kind of is tripping avicular. I don't really know what you mean by that. So, yeah. All right, you guys, thank you so much. If you're trying to get in for a reading with me, you can find all the information below. I'm excited. I'm doing some amazing New Year's readings for people, and I've been doing their Vedic charts as well, which, oh my God, the Vedic charts have been incredible because we have so much fire energy that's coming in this year. And there are so many amazing ways we can use this fire energy for purification rituals, for energy to accomplish those tasks. The fire horse can be something really, really wonderful if you know how to use that energy. So I'm really excited about the coming year for all of us. All right, everybody, we're out of here. Be kind to all so that all will be kind to you too. God bless. Peace out. And we'll see you next time. Thank you, everyone, for everything. All right, take care.